You're ready to nerd out on Poop Deck? Everybody knows who Poop Deck is, everybody who works in children's ministry. And if you don't, I'll give you a real quick summation of the rules partway through this video. But what we're going to talk about is who invented Poop Deck, cool guy, and what was the fantastic, the smartest marketing plan ever that made it famous among people who work with high school kids, people who work maybe with fourth and fifth graders and whatnot? It's amazing. The guy that invented it is a man named Ed Harris, and I met him when I was in high school, and he was a little old man, and boy was he messed up physically. He had rheumatism, and his hands were just claws, and he could barely move anything, and he was in a lot of pain all the time, and like I said, he was old. He worked at our church as a volunteer, would come by practically every day with a broom and sweep up the mess that us high school kids made. And so we figured this guy is really grouchy because he was always yelling at us for making a mess. But once I realized that the guy was living in constant pain, I knew that his volunteering to come by and sweep up and pick things up made him a pretty cool guy. Well, Pastor Vaughn, my youth pastor, told me that Ed would wake up at 3 a.m. every day because he was so uncomfortable, he couldn't sleep much beyond that. So he would get up every day and bake bread to take to the orphanage and bake sweets to bring to the church for some of us kids and others to enjoy. And he did that constantly, all the time. That to me is a hero of the faith. Now, Ed had been um, what do you call it? He was in the Navy and he was on board a ship, and the ship had various decks, and the rear deck is called the poop deck. Then there's the main deck, the quarter deck, and I'm sure there's others as well. And just in case you're wondering, poop deck, why do they call it that? It's from a French word that means stern, as in the stern of a ship. And that's where the poop deck was always located. And it was elevated in the old wooden sailing vessel, war ships back in the day. The captain, the steering wheel was up there. The captain could look down and see who was doing what and bark out orders or whatever. So that's where poop deck came from. I always wondered that. And Ed was the guy who he claimed to have invented the game, which he told to Vaughn, and Vaughn played it with us high school kids, and we loved it. Well, the reason I believe that Ed was telling the truth because of what happened next, and that was how this thing got famous. In San Diego, where this is all happening, there were two guys that were out of college, and they decided they wanted to start a Christian publishing company specifically for youth workers. In the area where they used to drive, there was a mechanic shop for specialty automobiles. It was called Corvette Specialties. And they thought that was, hey, that's a cool name. Let's call our company Youth Specialties. And it became huge in the history of youth work. They decided to release a manual size uh, book containing every good game idea they could come up with. And this is where the marketing just really went through the roof for them. They sent out letters, this was before emails, it was before the internet, to every church they could find all across the nation and said, give this to whoever is working with the high school, the junior high, as it was called back then. And in the letter, it said, hey, we will pay you $10 for any idea of a game that you submit to us that we publish. Well, $10 back then was probably like $50 or $60 is now. And youth workers were, by and large, were not paid back in those days. So that was like gold. And all these millions of youth workers sent in great ideas, and even those who didn't get published, they bought that book because they wanted to see all these great ideas. It was called Ideas. And that was the first volume. Those guys published over 100 volumes of the ideas books. And I had a lot of them back in the day. I wish I hadn't gotten rid of them. I don't know where they went. But the Pastor Vaughn took Ed's game, Poop Deck, and submitted it to Mike and Wayne, the two publishers of Youth Specialties, Mike Yaconelli and Wayne Rice. I got a chance to know them really, really well. I even was employed by them for quite a while, and they became one of my first publishers. But Poop Deck just went berserk because of Mike and Wayne, and because of Vaughn, and because of Ed. Now, did Ed really invent that game? I think he probably did, but if not, for sure he was the nexus that launched this great game. And if you want to, you can just type in Google search Poop Deck, and you'll get a million guys that have filmed their kids playing Poop Deck. So a game like this makes a great icebreaker. It makes a great just time killer while you're waiting for kids to come in. It's awesome. Here's how you play it. Here's the floor plan of your typical church Sunday school. You just run some tape along here and here. This is the main deck, quarter deck, and the poop deck. Good enough. All the kids to start go on the main deck. So kids, you stand out here. You tell the kids where to run to. The last person to cross the line into that deck is out of the game. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. My name is Tom, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you for working with kids to serve God, if that's what you do.